Good morning, Port St. Lucie. Thank you for joining us. We are here in our City Council chambers with some good friends from, well, an old friend, Doug Coward, retired county commissioner, now executive director of the SELF Incorporation, the Solar and Energy Loan Fund. And welcome, Mr. Coward. How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. Come on, big smiles, you know. All right, and Doug is here with his team. And Doug, do you want to introduce your team, my friend?
First of all, let me just thank you, Mayor, for hosting this event, also the City Council.
Yeah, thank the whole City Council.
Yes.
We even got one
Councilwoman Stephanie Morgan is here as well. So we very much appreciate your support for solar energy in general and also specifically for the event today. I do have a few team members with me. Starting to my right is Dwan Andrade, who is SELF's Chief Financial Officer. And then we, as an organization, have partnered with one of the largest solar companies in Florida to bring bulk rate or wholesale pricing to St. Lucie County, and that is through ESA Solar. And so I wanted to introduce Morgan Bronner, who is the Director of Sales for ESA Solar.
Well, thank you so much, Doug, for being here. And absolutely, you know, our whole City Council is really focused on one very straightforward vision for our city of Port St. Lucie, and that's to be a safe, beautiful, and prosperous city for all people. And certainly, there's a big place for solar in that. You know, when we say safe, as Mr. and Mrs. Coward out there know, the safest large city in Florida. But you know, we're here at the beginning of 2018. There's no better time than now to make the change we all want to see. And today, of course, we're here to talk about solar. And what is the state of Florida known as? What's our nickname?
The Sunshine State.
The Sunshine State. We are the Sunshine State. If you don't believe me, look at a license plate. That's all the proof you need. That's our nickname. That's who we are. And yet, well, the experts, the solar experts, say that we are top 3 potential. And you could see how that could be. We're the Sunshine State, but we have thunderstorms. There are drier places that have sunshine, like California, Arizona, other places. So you could, Texas. So you could see how maybe not number 1 for potential, but certainly number 3 for potential solar power. Guess where we're performing? Any thoughts? Yeah, exactly. We heard a whistle and a whoo. That's kind of how we're performing when it comes to solar. We're nowhere near it, and we're not in the top 10. So we're not living up to our potential. And as Americans, we should really hate that when we don't live up to our great potential. So not only are we not in the top 10, but places you'd never expect, New Jersey, New York, those types of cold weather, gray all winter states are beating us, the Sunshine State, in solar power. And I hope you're not okay with that, Port St. Lucie. Certainly, we're not okay with that. We think we can change that. We think we could go green while saving a lot of green. And to do that, we need to work with first-class organizations and longtime community champions like Doug Coward and SELF. And with that, SELF is here today. They're going to educate us on solar energy. They have a super special SunSavers program that this guy Morgan over here, he's kind of looking at me. He's overseeing the SunSavers program. And of course, SELF. What is SELF? How long has it been? How can it help? We're going to talk about Kiva, going to talk about crowdsourced funding. They're going to talk about all kinds of things. And at the end of the day, it's to help us go green and save green. Doug?
Great.
I'll steal this.
Great. Thank you again, Mayor. I'm going to be brief, but I do just want to echo your comments about Florida not doing very well in promoting rooftop solar. And we have found that that is due to several issues. One is the lack of financing. Many people cannot secure the upfront financing to actually make the investment, even though it's cost effective and the return on investment is fairly short and can save you tens of thousands of dollars. The price of solar has also been dropping dramatically. Since 2010, the price of solar has dropped 70%. And so the cost effectiveness of solar has now reached the point where it's actually cost competitive with carbon-based fuels off the grid. Today, we're not only going to talk about the financing programs that can help you go solar, but we're also going to be getting into the SunSaver wholesale solar PV program. And what that means is that we're able to drop the retail price an additional 30% and be able to combine wholesale pricing with 3 different 100% upfront financing programs to help homeowners go green, take advantage of solar energy, and also promote economic development and job creation right here in St. Lucie County. So what we're planning to do today is have Morgan Bronner with ESA Solar come up and provide a little bit more detail about how solar technology works, and also talk about the SunSaver program. And then we'll have Duan Andrade, SELF's Chief Financial Officer, follow up with more information about the 3 different lending programs. So with that, I'd like to invite Morgan Bronner, again, the Director of Sales of ESA Solar, to come forward and discuss solar energy and our SunSavers program. Thanks for being here, Morgan.
Thanks, Doug. I'll jump in here. Appreciate you guys having me here. So for some of those people in the audience and some of the folks who are watching, SunSavers has been going on for a couple months now here in St. Lucie County, and we've been really blessed to have, I think, over 200 signups to date of interested members of the community who want to reduce their electric costs, want to save money, want to go green, all the objectives that we kind of have discussed. So I do want to give a quick shout out. We have some gentlemen in the back here who are with ESA Solar, who are actually our solar advisor team. These gentlemen are actually the advisors to the community members, because one of the things we found to kind of tie in with why Florida and why many states are sort of behind the 8 ball with solar energy is that it can be really confusing, right? There's a lot of options. It's a very expensive product for a lot of people to make that investment. And so one of the things that we try to focus on at ESA is education. And so when we designed the SunSavers program, myself, Doug, and Duan sat down and said, how can we create a program that will help educate customers, make them feel comfortable, and hopefully help them make the decision to invest in solar in a simple, transparent way. And so that was sort of the goal of SunSavers. And I think we've done a pretty good job of providing transparent pricing, transparent education. And so hopefully we'll get some questions and help educate you guys as well today. So a little bit about solar just from a very 50,000-foot view, because I think there's a couple different types of solar first. So in this community, I think we see a lot of solar pool panels, right, which can sometimes be confused with what we're talking about today, which are solar electric panels, also called PV panels, photovoltaic panels. And so where a solar pool panel is just going to heat your pool, photovoltaic panels, so PV panels, are actually going to power your home with the energy you produce on your roof. So as you can kind of see in this diagram right here, what's actually happening is the sunshine is coming down on those panels, right? And they're absorbing the energy from the sun, and they're using something called an inverter to convert that energy into usable energy in your home, right? So it's sunlight being converted into energy, and then you are able to use it in your home. So it's directly powering the loads that you're pulling from your home's electric panel. And again, any excess energy then is sent back to our local utility grid. And the reason why that is because most of us are not home during the day, right? So in other words, if I'm producing 1 unit of energy on my roof and my AC and my fridge and everything that's running, all the lights in my house while I'm not home are using half a unit of energy, well, that other half is going to be sent back to the grid because simply I'm not using it, right? So with that being said, that's the process of net metering, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but I don't want to go into too much detail just yet. So this is the basics, right? So you harvest your own energy on your roof. Then you power your home, and you find your savings through your utilities, utility savings. So everybody has an electric bill, right? Everybody uses a different amount of electricity. And so what we do and what our solar advisor team does is we speak with every homeowner, and really the first step is to take a look at your utility bill and understand more about how much energy you're using, right? Not how much does your electric bill cost, but how much energy are you using over the course of a month, over the course of a year, per day. And so we're going to analyze that electric bill and help understand what size system you need to put on your roof. In other words, how many solar panels do we need to put on your roof to hopefully eliminate your electric needs altogether from the utility? And so what that allows you to do is you make a fixed monthly payment to the utility company each month. It's what we call a connection charge. And then you're actually getting all of your electric needs from the solar panels that are on your roof. And so that really is the idea of distributed generation, which I think for us is really exciting. For most of us right now, where do we get our energy from? Most of us really don't know, right? There's lines that connect to your house, and we're not really sure where those lines go. Then those lines go to bigger lines that we see on the highway, and those lines connect to a power plant hundreds of miles away. And so it really isn't local energy, right? And so when you put solar on your home, you actually become the provider of your own energy, and you're producing clean local energy on your rooftop, which as a homeowner is a pretty exciting thing, right? And so then when you look at that from a financial standpoint, you look at it as investment, right? You look at it, how you're going to see returns on that investment through the avoided cost that you would have otherwise paid through your utility provider. So again, the SunSavers program aims at bringing a lower cost of solar to the St. Lucie area. And so really what we see is that when you go as a single homeowner and you come to a company like ESA or any local provider, you don't really have any purchasing power. You're a single homeowner and you're attempting to purchase a system. With that being said, you're going to be charged what we would call the retail rate. In other words, that solar company has to pay for the cost of what's called customer acquisition, right? So they have to pay for marketing and advertising to come find you, to put an ad in the newspaper, to advertise their business for you to select them. You have to pay for the equipment, you have to pay for the labor, and you have to pay for interconnection charges, permitting fees. So there's a lot of small charges that all sort of add up and create what the cost of solar is. And so without any of us being economic experts, I think we can all understand what the idea of economies of scale is, right? So as you aggregate multiple homeowners together, right, multiple customers, you actually get group purchasing power. So it's similar when we go to Costco or we go to BJ's or Sam's Club and we buy our wholesale groceries. We're doing the same thing here with the SunSavers program in St. Lucie County, where we're bringing groups of homeowners together to help buy down the cost of solar by purchasing all of the solar panels at once, all of the racking installation material at once, all of the inverters at once. And so for us as a company, it allows us to bring wholesale pricing, and it allows us to pass those savings right on to the homeowner. So again, when Doug and Dewan and I kind of sat and chatted, we said, what's a compelling number? How low can we go, right, to save customers money here? And so what we look at as the national average on a price per watt basis is $3.16 a watt. So what does that mean? Solar systems are rated in what we call DC watts, right? So watts of direct current. And so typically you'll see system sizes that are 8 kilowatts or 9 kilowatts or 10 kilowatts. And so what a price per watt means is really how the total cost, let's say it's $10,000 or $20,000, relates to a system size of X amount of watts, right? So without getting into too difficult of a math equation, if you were to think of a $2 a watt system and it's a 9 kilowatt system, then that's going to be an $18,000 system total, right? So what this gives you is sort of an unbiased number, just like a price per square foot if you're shopping for tile for your home. You're not going to say, how much tile can I get from this guy or this guy? You're going to put all three companies that you're considering to do the floors in your home, and you're going to say, give me your price per square foot, right? So same thing here. This is your price per watt. And so again, the national average we see to be right around $3.15, $3.16 a watt. And so through the SunSavers program, members of the program here in St. Lucie County are able to get a solar system at $2 a watt. So well below the national average, and providing a significant amount of long-term savings to our customers. So we sort of designed this kind of three-step simple process. Starts with what we're doing today, right? This is an educational meeting. So for any of you that are in the audience here today and you want to sign up, feel free, head back to the table later today, sign up. We'd love to talk to you. But again, we really wanted to take a consultative and educational approach with this program. And so really by that means you attend a meeting, you learn more about this, and then you're able to go through a pre-qualification process with SELF. And what that's going to allow you to do is understand a couple things. One, am I a good fit for solar? So I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but if your house is covered by trees, you're probably not the best candidate for solar, unfortunately. But we do want to find out if you qualify for some of SELF's financing programs. So Dwan and Doug will talk a little bit about that later, but right here in St. Lucie County, we have one of the most robust suites of clean energy financing programs in the entire state. And so members here are able to take advantage of PACE financing and unsecured loans. And so with all of these options, there really is a financing tool that's right for every homeowner. So we try to go through this pre-qualification process to help homeowners choose what's right for them. And then that's going to just sort of transition to, again, the gentlemen that we have here today that are the solar advisors who are here to help educate and inform you so that as these questions sort of come up, well, what about the solar panel's warranty? And what about how is it installed on my roof? And how long is it going to last? And how much am I going to save? And there's so many questions you can ask. And what you could do is spend hours Google searching or try to pull a couple of books from the library. Or you could speak to experts who really know this and have worked with hundreds of customers. And that's what we want to do, is just give you free advice. If you decide that you want to purchase a solar system, that's fantastic, and we're glad to see you make that switch to solar. If not, we're happy to help educate you and hopefully provide as much information as possible to make it simple and easy moving forward. Again, really the three things we're looking for members of the group, we want to look at your credit history, right? Because if you do elect to finance a system, we want to work with credit-worthy members who are able to finance these projects. We want to look for a higher electric usage. If you're paying $30 or $40 a month and that's it for your electricity because you're not using a whole lot, I don't think solar is right for you. So it's really for the homeowners who find themselves paying so much in electric costs because of high usage, because maybe their home isn't energy efficient, maybe they have a family of 6 or 8, and those behaviors, those trends of how we use energy can ultimately be a lot of upfront costs that we're paying every month, right, of fixed costs that we really can't avoid, right? And so that's where solar comes in as an option. And the last is the obvious sun exposure. We hope that your roof has plenty of sunlight during the day. So as a really quick summary of the program, because I do want to sort of wrap up here about SunSavers, again, there's no cost to be part of our program here in St. Lucie County. We have 0 down, 100% financing, so the entire cost of the system is covered with the financing that we provide. And really the approach here is that we want to provide clean energy jobs. So really what's happening is we're bringing together these homeowners, and what we're doing is we're signing contracts with each of these homeowners to participate in the program. And so once they've selected and decide to move forward, we're actually selecting a local contractor to help install the systems here in St. Lucie County, because we do want to give a boost to the economy. We want to create clean energy jobs. We want to keep this local because, again, the objective of SunSavers is to grow solar here in this county, and furthermore, to grow it in the state of Florida. And so this is going to allow you to take advantage, again, of the expert advice of our solar advisors, and to have the opportunity to talk to your neighbor, to talk to your friend, to talk to your coworker, and ask, hey, how did this work for you? How much was yours? How much energy are you producing? And so what happens when we go solar together, it makes things a lot easier, and I think it makes things a lot more fun, because this can be a long and tedious process sometimes, picking the right solar equipment for you and finding the right system for your home. Really quick, just a last little bit on some of the solar incentives that are driving the market. I think for a long time, our industry, the solar industry, has been plagued by an idea of this high upfront cost really being a barrier of entry for people to actually put solar on their home. And what we've found is that a lot of people don't even really know about some of the incentives that are available. So first, we have to think of it from a really fundamental standpoint. If you're going to buy 25 years of electricity up front, you have to think about what that cost is going to be, right? Because again, you're buying 25 years of energy all at once. And so with that being said, there's a huge driver in the solar market, and it's the federal investment tax credit. And so this tax credit is actually 30% of the total system cost that's going back to you as a tax credit. So as you start to model the financial savings, as you start to look at how does this system pay me back, how much am I really paying, depending on your eligibility to receive this tax credit, you can really be looking at a system cost that's really only 70% of what the actual ticket price is of that, right? And so I think as we look at this, what's interesting is this can be allocated over 5 years, and it's going to continue up through 2020. So there is a bit of urgency because we want to take advantage of this 30% tax credit while it's still available. And as the market evolves, I think more and more people are starting to realize that this is really the most compelling driver of the market today. So here's a quick little financial summary. So I think a lot of information just was kind of exchanged, and we'll get into any other questions. But so for example here, just as a quick case study, if we looked at a 9 kilowatt system, which is a pretty average size system here in the state of Florida to take a home to what we would call net zero. In other words, there's the amount of energy that's used, the amount of energy that's produced is canceled out, right? They're using the same amount as they're producing. That's a net zero home. So through the SunSavers program, the total price would be approximately $18,000. They would receive a tax credit of $5,400, bringing the actual net price of the system to $12,600. If that homeowner elected to use, for instance, the 20-year PACE loan that is offered through SELF, they would be making a fixed monthly payment for 20 years of $150.56, and that's going to cover all their energy, and again, for 20 years. So I think this is a pretty good case study of what we see here, our 30-paneled, 9-kilowatt system here in the state of Florida. And that's it for me. Duan?
Well, before we have Duan come up, our CFO, talk numbers, everyone give Morgan a round of applause.
Thank you.
That's right, yelling from the audience.
Woo.
Now, we're going to have a little fun now. I want to ask the audience if they have any questions. You're going to be responsible for answering them. It's okay if you don't know the answer. You can always say, I'll get back to you. Yeah. You can use a lifeline and ask Doug or Duan if they can help you answer it. If you miss 3 questions, a trap door actually opens there.
What do I win?
And, well, everyone wins because the community will use more solar, and that's what this is all about. Perfect. So in that presentation, it was about as riveting, I felt, as it could be. And the only thing, when you said it was long and tedious, you forgot to say for people that don't go to SELF.
That's true.
But with you overseeing the program and working with your exceptional team,
easier.
it's gonna take some time, but it will be. You're gonna make it fun. I have faith that Morgan is gonna make it fun.
That's right.
All right. Now, does anyone out in the audience have any questions? The tougher, the better, really, for young Morgan there.
Challenge me.
Any questions, ma'am?
Yes.
This is Elizabeth. How do you pronounce your last name, Elizabeth?
Poso.
Poso.
Mm-hmm. I'm with Century 21. I'm a local real estate agent. And I am definitely interested in solar energy. How do I pitch this to my clientele? And what happens after 20 years? What happens to the panels? And I see there's shingles coming up with solar energy. How's that different from the panels?
So that was a 3-part question. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here. So one, how do we share this information? How does someone whose job is basically to interact and be an ambassador for our community 24/7, how can we empower her to let the community know? That was the first one. Number 2 was an addition. You had 3 great questions. The second one, all right, you talked about cost, you talked about buying 20 years of electricity, but what happens if something breaks? How do we know that there's a guarantee on the product or that maintenance is included in your life cycle cost? And then third, because everyone loves Elon Musk, she brought up the solar roof and shingles question, yep. And he may punt on that one just because the price just isn't right yet, and I don't know that they're using that technology, but I'll let the expert go. So 1, 2, 3, Morgan,
That's
it's got to be that easy.
Okay, so number 1, how do you engage your clients on this topic? For me personally, I think it's a super compelling value proposition as a realtor or in any home buying market to be able to offer this option. And the reason I say that is because what we say often, well, you may have a move-in ready home, Oftentimes we do see renovations that have to take place, and so we'll see rehab mortgages, or we see mortgages where, or maybe the customer itself just has $10,000, $20,000 laying around, right, to add into those renovations. And so that's a great time to take a look and reevaluate your energy needs for that home, right? And so the only barrier there is, well, you may not know how much energy you're going to use, but what you are able to do is work with a local solar professional who can tell you how much approximately this home should use, and then let's look at designing a system that we can work for that home. So I think for your clients, I think one of the best things that you can do is help work with a local company that can help educate, and then from there, understanding some of the financing options available to have that conversation early on. One of the things we do see, and there's white papers that are available, national averages are showing that we're seeing pretty close to about 80% of the value of the actual system itself is what will be added to the appraisal value of the home with solar being added to that. And so some of that is coming from the studies in California where it's a much more robust solar market. Here in Florida, we're learning. We have appraisers learning every day, and there are organizations that are built on educating those appraisers to get them more prepared to help those homeowners. So I think it's a conversation that's great to start early on in the process, and hopefully they can find some better savings there than maybe they did with hurricane mitigation or something else like that.
Morgan, I'm your buddy. I'm right here in the corner of the ring. Tag me in.
Come on in.
No, you got to tag me.
All right, let's do it. Right here.
All right. Thank you. This is participatory. All right. So what I would say, he said value proposition, right? But potentially it's going to save your prospective clients, the people that you're helping, money. And at the end of the day, people like Morgan and the dedicated professionals itself are going to sit down with you in a non-tedious process and show you the bottom line. This is what you could save, and it has to be about saving money. And then furthermore, they live to get the word out. So they're going to provide you with PDFs, the link to the website. I bet Mr. Coward, who is known for public participation in government and nonprofits, I bet he'll set up some kind of hotline for you where you could get through and talk to someone you know at Self and say, hey, I got a client who's really looking at this. They're interested in it. Can you help us? Duan? Please, come on. I'll tag you in. Yeah, but see, you don't have to smack her hand off, Morgan.
Hey, I like it.
I just wanted to add to your question. I think that one of the selling points that's often missed with homes is the fact that the operating costs count a lot. It's not only the value of the home, but when you're looking for a home, you ask, well, what's your average energy bill? And that has a huge impact. If you can sell somebody on, well, if you have solar panels, you really don't have an energy bill. That's going to save you thousands over time. So I just wanted to add that note to your question. That was
Clearly, that's why you're the CFO. You're not going to have a monthly bill, so sometimes we can wrap our minds around capital one-time costs. Like, all right, this is going to be expensive. It's even going to be a little bit, expensive after the tax credit and after they set me up with a great loan. But it's a one-time capital cost, and from now to 25 years, I am never going to have an electric bill. That's pretty awesome. And then that allows you to have cash flow and plan and live a better life. Because we all know it's not really about how much we make. It's about how much we have and can save. It's that difference. That's really where quality of life comes from, is that free cash flow. But then this is the perfect segue, Morgan, to part two. How can we be sure when we bought 25 years of electricity, we really get 25 years? Are you going to be here in 25 years? Tell us.
So typically any solar panel system that you purchase is going to come with 2 different warranties. The first warranty is answering that question, which is called a power production guarantee, which is standard in the market, and that's a 25-year power production guarantee. So what the solar panel manufacturer's warranty language says is your panel should start at this level of energy production. And if it drops below a certain level over the course of those 25 years, then you are able to place a claim for the warranty and get that panel replaced. So you can be guaranteed that there's going to be a threshold of energy that will be produced, and any contractor who is licensed in the state of Florida knows those rules and knows that we have to give you real factual data based on weather predictions and based off of the orientation of that home to give you an accurate number of how much energy that's going to produce over 25 years. So that's warranty number one. Warranty number two is what we call a product warranty, which is what we're all familiar with as consumers, right? So appliances, cars, it comes with a product warranty, which is really just safeguarding any defects of that product. And so typically those warranties are anywhere between 10 to 12 years on the product itself. So if anything goes wrong in that period, that's taken care of in terms of the actual defects. Through the SunSavers program, we're also offering a 1-year workmanship warranty that safeguards all of the actual roof penetrations that we do in installing the system, and any of the actual workmanship in terms of the electrical work and the installation of the system on the roof. So I hope that answers the question of warranties and how you can safeguard. Overall, though, a system is going to last much longer than 25 years. It's like many other things. Your car may be warranted up to 100,000 miles. So panels are warranted for 25 years, and they're going to produce well on to 40 years, and they will continue to produce energy for you and keep those energy costs low.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. And I want to tag in the big guy right here, Doug Coward, because as I knew, he coached me up on a little bit of their customer service aspect.
All right, great. Thank you, Mayor. Two thoughts, if I could. We have two different types of solar panels that are being provided through this program. Both of them are tested and vetted by an independent organization called the Florida Solar Energy Center, or FSEC. One of those products is from Asia and has been affected by the new tariff. The second one is an American-made product that's actually made right here in Florida in Riviera Beach. So we're providing both of those options through this program. The one thing I wanted to emphasize that I love about the SunSaver program and working with ESA Solar is the fact that if you're interested, you can actually get a customized proposal for your home or business, or if you own industry or whatever it is, you can get a free proposal from them that is customized for your actual home or business. So you have the opportunity to actually see the numbers before you make a final decision. And I think that's really critical. It's one thing today to hear kind of a broad overview, but to actually get a customized proposal for your home with actual numbers, that can be critical in terms of helping to educate you and show you the actual savings from that proposal.
Fantastic.
All yours.
And so lastly, just wanted to have Dwan Andrade, our Chief Financial Officer, talk a little bit about the different financing programs that are offered by SELF. So thank you, Dwan.
That goes back to...
Yeah, we can mics all over the place.
Okay, well, thank you. Any more questions before I segue into the financial aspects?
I'm sure we will all have questions about finances afterward.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying, kind of going to a higher level for a second, talk very briefly about SELF. SELF is a nonprofit CDFI. CDFI means Community Financial Development Institution, which basically means that what we do is financing focused on low and moderate income populations. That doesn't mean we exclude anybody, but it means that that's our focus and our mission. That being said, what we're out to accomplish here and always is to make clean energy, solar, energy efficiency, and all sorts of home improvements that are sustainable, accessible to all. So what we're talking about is inclusive financing. And that's important to note because sometimes people feel that they are left out. And green technologies, and especially solar, I think has been seen as something sort of as a luxury item. Only the rich can afford solar. Only the rich can afford these green technologies. So the first message I want to convey is that SELF is here to break down that barrier, and we're here to help everybody. That being said, the other thing I wanted to point out is that with the SunSavers program, you do not have to use our financing. So in other words, if you want to do solar and you have cash, or if you want to use your bank, or if you want to use any other sort of financing, you're absolutely free to do that. All we're doing is advancing our mission to advance clean energy by offering, facilitating the process of you obtaining a better price for solar. So, that being said, I'm going to jump into our 3 lending programs that we have. Basically, through the CDFI, we have financing accessible to everybody at rates that range from 5 to 9.5%. These financial options are pretty easy to access. Yes.
I just want to thank Councilwoman Morgan for stopping by. Thank you, Councilwoman Morgan.
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
here and supporting.
Thank you very much. So the financing that we have available through the CDFI is pretty easy to access if you have basically income that you can prove, and if at the end of the day you have a little bit of disposable income to repay a loan. What we focus on itself is not a credit score necessarily. It's not your assets, but basically the fact that you have some income, whether it's retirement income, whether it's Social Security income, whether it's income from employment, but that you can prove income, and that after your expenses, you have some disposable income that will allow you to repay a loan. The second program that we have is through Kiva. Kiva is a worldwide crowdfunding platform. It's not the typical crowdfunding that you may be familiar with, where you raise funds for donations. Kiva is a peer-to-peer lending crowdfunding platform. Basically, 1.6 million people across the world are lending small amounts of capital to people all over the world. Kiva has been around probably for 10 years. They have done close to $1 billion in lending. Small loans average $500 loans to $5,000 loans. And basically, the micro investors will lend to somebody in our community through us, and they will get repaid through Kiva. So Kiva focuses on the hardest hit sector. In other words, the people with the lowest credit scores or the ones that have had the most hardship. Our Kiva program is focused on 2 groups: veterans, U.S. veterans, and women heads of households. We have done almost $500,000 in lending through Kiva. Average size loans, $8,000. It's a pretty powerful tool to think that people from all over the world, I mean, 30 countries sometimes participate in our loans right here in our backyard. So we're able to raise capital at low cost, and these loans in particular are 5-year terms with 5% interest rates and are accessible to those 2 groups. The third program that we have is PACE. Now, PACE is a little bit different because it's a property assessed clean energy program, which we administer for the county. Basically, that means that we originate and process the loans, but this loan is an asset-backed loan. It's based on equity in the home. To access this loan, you have to have equity in your property. We can lend up to 20% of the total assessed value of the property or up to 100% of the net equity. So this is a little bit different because if you take out a PACE loan through us, you will be paying through the tax collector system. You will be paying on an annual basis. And again, the interest rates range between 7 and 8.5%. The other thing about the PACE loans, which differs from our other loans, are the terms. With PACE loans, you go from 5 years up to 20 years. So you can spread out the payments on yearly installments, and it may make sense for you. Again, we have programs that fit into different, categories, and according to what you're more comfortable with, you can pick and choose any one of these programs, and we will qualify you and we'll help you through the process and recommend which product is best for you.
Juan, could we explore a couple things right there?
Yes.
On the PACE, those are special assessments then?
Yes.
You make a special assessment payment as part of your annual tax bill?
Exactly. Those are voluntary assessments, so you're voluntarily assuming a loan that will become an assessment on your tax bill.
So when we get tax bills, we have the portion where it's property tax ad valorem, we know it as, and then on the second half of it, we have non-ad valorem assessments. And like in Port St. Lucie, you might have a stormwater assessment fee in there.
Exactly.
If
Exactly.
Up, you'll see it, and that's where I would see also this pace.
Yes, exactly.
Just hit me with the interest and hit us with the interest. What's the typical interest rate that
Well,
ballpark it?
Right, 7 to 8.5%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and 5 to 20 years. Again, any other questions? There? No. Okay. So again, just an overview of what SELF is and how we operate. As a nonprofit lending institution, we have access to capital through different sources. Interestingly, most of our investors, out of 23 investors, are faith-based organizations. They're basically churches that are lending us capital so that we can re-lend to low and moderate income communities. 72% of our clients are in LMI, or low and moderate income census tracts. They have been the biggest supporters because they see a clear connection between clean energy and social justice. And we also focus on those triple bottom line impacts, which are social justice, environmental justice, and economic justice. So we have raised total almost $10 million between grants and loan capital for SELF since 2012. And out of those almost 10 million, 6 million is loan capital, and 70% is from faith-based organizations. We also have banks that invest in us for CRA credits. We also have what they call impact investors, which are basically investors that are looking for less of a financial return in exchange for environmental impact or social impact. We also have our seed grant money, which is the big blue portion that we started off with, which at one point was everything, and now, as you can see, we have multiple different sources of funding. And then we have our Kiva crowdfunding as well. So our capital comes from all these different sources. And again, even though we're a nonprofit, we don't operate based on grants. We operate based on loan capital that we receive and we have to repay. Therefore, we also go through a process to approve people based on their ability to repay loans. And so far, we've done almost $7 million in lending, average loan size of $8,500 with a less than 1% default rate. To the sector, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, and the round of applause really is to the people that are deemed not creditworthy by the banks and that we're giving a chance. So they're the ones that deserve the applause. So that being said, again, I've touched on Kiva, but this is a very powerful program that we like to talk about and to kind of share, and we hope the community gets more involved, because you can either become a Kiva investor, meaning that you can invest in somebody right here in our community, anywhere from $25 or more. It's $25 increments usually, and you can invest, meaning that you're going to not donate the $25, but actually lend the $25. You will get 0% interest back, but you will get repaid. Kiva has 99% repayment rate, just like our loans do as well. So the chances of you getting repaid if you lend to one of our clients through Kiva are extremely high. On the other side, you can also access a loan with Kiva interest, which is 5% in 5-year terms if you fall into the category of being a U.S. veteran or a female head of household. So again, we encourage you to look at our site, learn about our programs, and participate, become part of these programs. So that ties back in with the SunSavers program, because one of the biggest barriers to accessing solar has been financing. I want to go solar, but it's too expensive. Well, turns out it's not too expensive anymore, but I still don't have the financing. I don't have $15,000 sitting around. Most people don't. And most people may think twice about going to a bank and getting a home equity loan. Well, why do I have to put up my house for $15,000? And if I go to a bank and I want to get a consumer loan, probably going to get it at 13% or 17% if I use a credit card. The bottom line is you really can't find consumer loans for less than 13 to 17%, even if you have a 700 credit score. We are filling that gap. We're here to help everyone and anyone that wants to go solar We will show them the numbers, help them realize that they work, and if they don't work, we'll be the first ones to tell them this may not be for you. So with that, I will hand it over to the mayor again. Thank you.
So much, Juwan. Give her a big round of applause, everybody. All right, so our friend from Century 21 got us going with questions. Excellent questions. Does anyone have questions here at the end of round two? Yes, sir. Your name?
Sean Mitchell. Thank you, Mayor. I've been a citizen here for 27 years, and actually in 2010, with the collaboration from the county and from Career Source Board and the 7 various building trade apprenticeship programs, we created the Green Collar Task Force, which is up on Midway Road. So what interested me here today is to collaborate with the clean energy jobs that I keep hearing. And if you keep local taxpayer dollars here, they get spent 8 times over. So there's career pathways, not just for jobs, but for careers. And I applaud you. And my question is, could we collaborate more with the mayor and the city to make sure that these good, clean energy jobs stay here local? And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean Mitchell, for that comment. It was a pleasure working with you in the past to create that Green Collar Task Force and to help train the workforce. This is one of the biggest opportunities in the United States, candidly. It's a huge economic development opportunity, and we need to be training our workforce to take advantage of these opportunities and have the skills to actually do the work. So what we do, the Solar Energy Loan Fund does, is we work with over 200 contractors throughout the state, most of them here in St. Lucie County. In fact, I was just looking at the numbers, and we've completed $1.97 million of projects just here in Port St. Lucie alone. So it's very important to us that we're able to work with qualified contractors and a skilled workforce. Right now, we're seeing the state of Florida buying power from outside of the state to fuel our cities and cars, and the number is astounding. $60 billion a year we send out of the state to drive somebody else's economy. What we're trying to do here is to redirect those energy dollars back into our local economy to promote a homegrown, cost-effective solution. And in the Sunshine State, that is solar. And so we're very pleased to work with local contractors, and we would very much like to support the apprenticeship programs to the best of our abilities. Yep. Whoop, got a heck.
And thank you for being on our board and serving on our board and helping us get to this point.
Yes. My apologies for not recognizing that. Sean was one of the founding board members with SELF and served for a good 5 years or so.
And thank you for staying with it, Sean. Appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions? You know, we have the CFO, the financial wizard here. Any additional questions? Because, boy, do we have some from Facebook. We weren't able to run Facebook Live, but I posted this event last night. We have 28 comments. So I'm going to hit some of you with some rapid-fire questions at the end. You got to keep that young guy on his toes over there, Doug. So, yes, ma'am. I believe this is Mrs. Coward.
My name's Rose, and I'm a consumer. And
Go ahead and take it.
I'm concerned that we, as people in the public who don't know about the SELF program and the SunSavers program, except on a peripheral basis, we hear dribs and drabs, Facebook, this kind of thing. Somehow we need to make a headline across the TC Palm and say,
If Doug can't get that done, I don't know.
well,
who can.
I'm asking him tonight.
Because he's got the hotline to West.
No, I'm just talking about, we just hear from our president that we're have a brand new 30% tariff on panels coming in from Asia, and here we make them ourselves in Riviera Beach. We need a great big headline for our community that says it's available here. That's my concern as a consumer. So.
And that is, thank you, ma'am. That's a never-ending battle. So anyone who believes in the mission has to stay on it. Any other questions before we go to? Yes, sir. Please state your name and ask your question.
Yeah. I'm Chris Escher, and I'm building a home here in Port St. Lucie right now, and yeah, it's great. I've been here a year and a half. It's a nice community. But the proposed value, you said like, I don't know, 80% or 70% of the solar onto that. What does that look like on a new home construction? Is that something that is kind of brought on right away, or is that something that you find later on when you sell it? Does my question make sense? I'm thinking of financing mortgage and all that stuff, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
If you're building a home, I would say do it now. Roll it into the cost because you have the financing available. And that financing, if, I'm assuming you're using some type of financing, is going to be the lower cost financing. Then rather than doing it and then coming back and getting, I mean, as much as we have low cost financing, it's not as low as a mortgage, loan. So I recommend you look at it right away. Morgan, any additional comments?
Yeah.
Plus your payback on the solar is 6 years.
Plus, from a construction standpoint, I like it that you're getting the original GC to put it in on the penetrations and everything.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you would still need a licensed solar contractor to actually put the solar in, but there's a lot of efficiencies in new construction, right? So a lot of times what you see is on the outside, you're running electrical conduit down the walls, and so from an aesthetic standpoint and from a durability standpoint, there's things that what we call a retrofit, which is a home that's already built, it really is going to affect the overall productivity of the system in some ways if the home is too cumbersome to add that system, right? In new construction, you can plan with it in mind, work with the architect, work with the GC, bring the solar contractor in, bring the roofer in, and so what you're going to do is then eliminate leakage and roof penetrations, and you're also going to create a better, more productive system. So I think it's a great added value, and I think the value of the actual system itself, you'll definitely realize that value within a year or two of building it. I think that it's important to make sure you're working with an appraiser who understands the value of solar energy.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add one other comment. I know we're here talking about SunSavers and solar. In my previous comments, I talked about the importance of us working with contractors. And while we have this opportunity, I do want to just ask if there are contractors in Port St. Lucie that are interested in working with our program. We're very much interested in working with more contractors because what we're hearing from our 200 plus contractors is that about half of all their potential clients they have to walk away from due to a lack of financing. They're not able to, they don't have 700 credit scores, they're not able to secure financing. Because our organization's lending standards are significantly lower than a traditional bank, we help fill that void, which means we're able to help we're also able to help grow the local business as well. Lastly is typically contractors have to pay the financing agency anywhere between 10 and I've heard as high as 20% on a per project basis just to get access to financing. We don't charge our contractors a dime to be a part of our program, and we do not charge them for access to our financing. So they're able to capture a bigger market and also reduce their per project cost as much as 10 to 20%. So if you're a local contractor that does not only energy efficiency and renewables, but you're a general contractor who may do windows, doors, hurricane shutters, we do all of it. We do home renovations that fall in the category of sustainable building practices. So this is my call to you to reach out to us. You can reach us at 772-468-1818, and we'd love to have more Port St. Lucie contractors on board.
Thank you, Doug. And so thank you for that question from our new resident. We look forward to you having a brand new, beautiful home in Port St. Lucie. And better that you do solar on the front side because it's integrated into it. It's not an add-on. It's not an after the fact. It's from the beginning. And then also wrapping in your mortgage, if you can, gives you the ability to drive that cost down. And that just makes the ROI higher, the return on investment higher, gets you payback sooner, and it just makes even more sense. So, you know, at the end of the day, remember, if you have someone interested in solar, you're out there, you're a realtor, you're a contractor, you can come in through the SunSaver program. They will sit down with you. They will evaluate your project. They will give you a sheet. You'll be able to look at the bottom line and see if it makes sense from a bottom line perspective. And then Sean had the great question of, you know, how could we do more? And of course, Mrs. Coward, you know, we're mission driven. The people who joined us here today, you know, they're doers. They love the community. They're on a mission. How can we make it happen? Well, one of the things, and Doug doesn't even know this yet, I just came back from DC last week. I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and Wells Fargo is once again partnering with the mayors of the country. They're making a grant program available. Every participating mayor has the ability to nominate 3 nonprofits, up to 3 nonprofits for projects that revitalize, create jobs, and there's one other category. But I think that through revitalization and targeting low to moderate income areas, and especially areas like the city of Port St. Lucie Community Redevelopment Area, and other areas and census blocks within the city, and the potential for job creation and leveraging through crowdfunding, I think that she could put together a great application. And so for our size city, we might be able to bring $150,000 to bear if we would win. We have till, I think, the middle of March. They might have given us one day, so it's not on the Ides of March. It's March 16th, I think the application's due. But it's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today. So through resources like that, I think we can come up with a compelling application. Of course, it's a national competition. There are no guarantees, but it doesn't hurt to try. So through programs like this, like that, and obviously through events like this, we'll continue to do everything we can to get the word out. At the end of the day, linking the people out there with self and the SunSavers program to actually get to that bottom line, that's what's important. Now, if I could, like I said, I had about 28 questions. Now, you might not be able to answer all of them, but these came in through Facebook, and a few of them, I think, were really important, really compelling, and I think, you know, there's a lot of rumors out there, and you know, Doug, from being such a successful county commissioner, it's our job to address things and try to get out good information. So do you mind helping with that? I'm going to grab my phone. Okay, yeah, just get up there, stand in the line, pretend you're on a firing line.
Come on up.
All right.
You're going to probably have most of the tech questions.
All right. First, I'm going to ask you, you talked about net zero, and Morgan did a great job of explaining that that's when you produce enough to zero out what you consume on electricity. What's that net metering? Can you hit that again? What's net metering mean in Florida?
So really, by definition, net metering is the exchange of energy between the home and the utility grid, right? So when you add solar to your home here in the state of Florida, by law, we are required to be connected to the grid at all times. So that solar system that's on your home is actually an asset that is connected to the electrical grid. So what you have is a small power plant on your home. And so that net metering is that exchange of energy. And then here in the state of Florida, our major investor-owned utilities, the IOUs, are required to credit us 1-to-1. So if I produce 1 unit of energy, they're going to pay me back for any overproduction at the same cost that I would have purchased it from them. If that makes sense. So that would be net metering here in the state of Florida.
So can your meter actually run the other way?
Correct. Yep.
So that's the way that we always we want to get it running, right? We wanted to get it going the other way because that means we're giving power to FPL and we're going to get a credit. So because of what net metering means and because that's actually a requirement in the state, after the hurricanes, there were some rumors going around. In fact, some of those rumors were reported in major newspapers and all across the internet, and people really took it and ran with it because the rumor was that FPL, other power providers, wouldn't let you operate your solar panels in the wake of a hurricane, in the wake of Hurricane Irma. Have you heard that? Do you have any response to that?
Yeah, we've had a couple case scenarios, and I think everyone here kind of knows. But yeah, so again, if the grid goes out, your solar goes out. So the system will stop producing. And from a technical standpoint, that's really because your solar panels are connected to the grid and using the grid as a base. And so really today, our inverters are pretty smart, and they know if the grid goes down, then the solar shuts off. And I think we should all be pretty happy about that, actually, because if any of you have family or friends who work in an emergency service role, this is really protecting our firefighters or electric linemen who work for FP&L, because, again, these are electric systems, and this could be very dangerous while working on there. So the fact that that grid goes out and that system goes down is actually protecting our workers.
So thank you for hitting on that, Morgan. So yes, at the end of the day, it wasn't a conspiracy. It was because if you backfeed the system and you have linemen trying to repair the system for everybody, they can be electrocuted and obviously killed. So we can't have that happen. Now, the good news is if you have a battery pack, okay, if you have a smart battery pack, Or according to many sources, if you have a cutoff, and it's safe to do so, and you are removed from the grid, then you can still operate, okay? So this was a case where there was a little grain of truth to it, but people ran with it. And on my Facebook page, I actually, Snopes, if you're familiar with that website, they actually investigated it, and they graded it out as being false. Big red stop sign, X, false. So as much as, you think about that utility, and given our past history here in the state where there's been certain referendums, initiatives put out to the people, it's okay to be skeptical, but in this case, that was completely false. So that's an important one to get out there. I had someone on Facebook say it was still ridiculously expensive. I think you've hit that pretty well. Yeah, please do.
I just want to elaborate a little bit on the cost. When we started this program in 2010, the cost of solar was about $9 a watt. Typical size home is using about 8,000 watts. If you look at $9 a watt, that would translate into $72,000 investment. That $9 a watt has now dropped to the number that was stated. The national average is about $3.15 a watt. And through our SunSaver program, we're knocking that down to $2.30 and below, $2.30 a watt and below. So use the American-made product at $2.30, and at 8,000 watts, you're looking at a little over 16,000 rather than 72,000. And so the price has dropped tremendously. And as such, if you look at like a pro forma for your home and this business investment, you'll see that the return on that investment is less than 8 years. Depending on whether you're using financing or not, which basically means that you're going to pay off the system with the energy savings itself in a time frame somewhere between 6 and 8 years, and the product is warranted through 25 years. So basically, you have the option to pay, you have that system paid off, and you'll have free energy for another 15 years beyond that. So when we're talking about the SunSaver program and helping homeowners and businesses go green, we're talking about saving them thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars. And that's one of the things that gets me promoting solar and being involved not only in the state but nationally, is this misconception that if you go solar, it's going to cost you more. I can tell you with 100% certainty that that is not the case. We can help you go solar, we can help you cut your energy costs, and we can help keep those energy dollars here in our community, driving our local workforce rather than sending it to other states and nations.
So Doug, as you know, sometimes Facebook is a political place, or maybe I should say it's always a political place. But here at the city, we're nonpartisan. It's one of the things I love about local government and service to local government, is that you can just be for everyone. You don't have to pick a side. And but we do still get political comments, and of course about the 30% tariff. That was by a certain administration. But is this program, I know you said it, but let's repeat it, is this program over because of the 30% tariff?
The answer is no. There is a 10%, I think it translates into a 10% overall cost for the American-made product, roughly. The original price came in at $2 a watt, and with the tariff being applied to the modules, that increase translates to a bump to $2.20 a watt, and the American-made product out of Riviera Beach remains the same at $2.30 a watt. So in a broad...
So Morgan's square footage, tile in my house numbers, still good?
Yes.
Even with the tariff?
We will still save you money even with the tariff.
We're still good.
Absolutely.
We're rocking and rolling.
On a broad statement, I think there's been tremendous growth and development in the clean energy sector, and I certainly don't support any steps that are going to hurt that momentum. But at the same time, it is not going to kill the industry. We will absolutely be able to continue to move forward with this program and solar programs and do it cost effectively.
Is rooftop solar the only way it can be done? Does it have to be on your roof?
Well,
Can I make a carport?
He knows about all the different types.
Could it be ground mounted? Could I build a carport for my car with solar panels?
Good question. Well, just first of all, having been introduced before, my name is Desmond. I'm one of the energy advisors here, along with the SunSavers program. That's a very good question that we get all the time is, do the panels have to go on your roof? Are there other options for it? Another option that is that some homeowners can do is something called a ground mount. is where you actually place the panels on the ground in some area of your property that you own. You know, with that, there's just like the study that we need to do with making sure it's viable for your roof, we have to make sure it's viable for the ground as well. So you have that option.
So it's a sunlight study. You got to make sure enough sunlight hits that spot to make it worth the while.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have our new homeowner there. He's building his dream home in Port St. Lucie, and why wouldn't we? I mean, we're the safest large city in Florida, and we have all these natural resources. We have great location. Our school district jumped over 15 places this year. I mean, we're obviously a community on the rise, and he's smart for moving here. But we're trying to make things better with the solar. And can you build the carport? Could he do that? Could he park his 2 cars? Have you ever seen that before? Is that something that can be done?
Can it be done? Yes. Will we have to do some specific studying for your situation? Absolutely. I mean, there's possibilities in all of this. A lot of what we're talking about today is rooftop. But if you want to explore some other things, we just talk about it and see what's viable.
How about our friend from Century 21? Are you able to give her any information on the state of solar shingles and actual integrated solar roofs versus panels on roofs?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to take one for fun? You want to take one? Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So
is fun. There's a disclaimer on this one.
this is a fun question for us because we just love hearing it. So there's a lot of new technologies that we see on Facebook and that we see being shared through the media. And so I think one of the most interesting pieces of that is that it's always like branded or marketed as this brand new technology, right? We now have solar shingles or solar tiles, or we have integrated PV systems into the roof, and it's actually not new. So all of those items are actually utilizing the same technology that we're using in panels, photovoltaic cell technology. And while each of those technologies may be different, or the applications may be different, one of the most fantastic things about these panels, I think Doug kind of said earlier, but basically over the past 5 years, the cost has come down about 80%. And the reason behind that is that we've achieved manufacturing efficiencies with these, and we've also pushed these panels to the theoretical efficiencies of how well photovoltaic cells can translate sunlight into energy. So what that means is the members of the SunSavers program and people who choose to use solar panels that are tried and tested and retested by FSEC and certifying boards and can see real return, those panels actually have the highest efficiencies on the market today, which means that they're going to be the most productive at turning sunlight into energy. So while some of these new technologies are great, right now they are more expensive and they are less efficient than the panels we're using in the SunSavers program.
Doug?
Can I just add one thing? It was mentioned earlier, the 30% federal tax credit that's available for the solar panels. It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if you have an older roof, you certainly don't want to put solar panels on a roof that's going to need to be replaced in 5 years. However, if you roll the roof replacement or repair into the project, it's my understanding that you can not only get the 30% on the solar side, but you also can capture 30% for the total project cost, which can include the roof. Ooh. So if you're in a situation where you want to do the roof improvement and do solar, you can combine them together. We can finance both, and you can capture the 30% federal tax credit, which just brings the price down even further.
Thank you, Doug. Duan?
And by the way, just to make it clear, in case it wasn't, we do finance roofs and anything that's wind hazard mitigation, so hurricane shutters, impact windows, doors, and roofs as well.
Do you do weatherization or?
Absolutely. Okay. Weatherization, insulation, high-efficiency air conditioners are our #1 products that we finance. So, yes.
And that's really critical, everybody and everyone who might be watching at home, because the one that has the greatest rate of return, the shortest payback, is actually weatherization, making sure all your openings are actually sealed properly. And then, things like insulation, really important. And that goes, was it Chris, our new resident? So we have Chris, and was it Ms. Poso from Century 21, the realtor that'll help you get solar power on your new home? Let's say that he has a modern home, excellent insulation factor. just ballparking, this is not, you're not going to have to testify to this later, but just helping us understand, how many square feet does Chris, how many square feet is your home, Chris? Like 2,000? 21? 2,100, family of four, 4.5? Three, but probably one on the way. So talk to us about how big of a system would they need, just ballparking, how many square feet is that solar system?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, lots of estimations here, but I would say probably.
You're good, though. You're like a ninja of solar power.
That's right. Probably the 9 or 10 kilowatt system that we sort of talked about before. Here in Florida, we see such large roof spaces, and I think one of the biggest drivers of electric demand here is obviously our AC in the summer. I think we all know that. So I would say right around between a 9.5 or 10 kilowatt system is probably what you need to go net zero for that home.
Okay, so really close to the example that you provided in the presentation, though.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, how about you, audience? Thank you so much for being here. Do you got any more questions for the crew? All right. Let me bring the microphone for you.
How is this program transferable? Let's say I'm selling my house to a buyer who's going to now take over this loan, or the loan has to be paid prior to the transfer.
So we're talking about, she sold him one house, now she's going to sell that house and help him buy another house. How do we deal with the assessment? Does it run with the property?
Okay, so I have a question for you first. What loan are you talking about?
Let's say PACE.
Oh, PACE. Okay. PACE stays with the property. Now, again, Fannie, Freddie are not buying homes that have a PACE loan on it. And when we go through the process of a PACE loan, we make sure that the client understands and we disclose everything to the client very thoroughly so that they know those conditions. So if you're planning to resell a house or to not stay in it for more than 10 years, PACE may not be your best option. Our other loans, however, are personal loans, so you don't have any problem at all. Okay?
Okay, great, thank you.
So not exactly like the water and sewer where it could stay with the land. Yeah. Unfortunately, because of our partners there, Fannie and Freddie. Any other questions from the audience? I think we handled all the real zingers. And I'm really sorry about that because I wanted to hit Doug with some good ones, but you know, there's a lot of payback after we've been working together for so long. Let's see here. I think you've really captured them all. You did hit on it, but there's a big difference between solar hot water heating and PV, right? Mm-hmm. There is, right?
Yeah, so very big difference. Again, the solar electric panels, photovoltaic panels, are powering your home's electric usage. So any loads that you pull through your main electric panel, the solar panels are tied right into that to power that. So no interaction with your pool whatsoever unless your pool is being heated through your typical electric.
You know, and I think the other thing on that, Morgan, is that we've been through a few hurricanes now. We've had Francis and Jean, of course. We got kissed by Hurricane Matthew almost a year and a half ago, and then unfortunately Irma last year. We haven't had the catastrophic Cat 5, but we've certainly been touched, and we've seen enough solar hot water heaters around the neighborhood and the fabric and the pipes to be a little worried. And that's really why I think it's so important not just to differentiate between water and electricity, but just also the product itself. So the PV, that's a panel, right? It's like a solid, rigid panel. And then it's
glass, aluminum, yep.
And then it's screwed into the roof.
Correct, yep.
And so if the roof is there, good chance that panel's going to be there.
Yeah, I like to say when people ask what happens about if my roof is going to go, what happens with a hurricane, I like to say if your solar panels come off the roof, then your roof went as well, right? So the winds would have to be high enough to take your roof off for your solar panels to come off as well, because we're drilling right into those trusses. It's very well secured, and I think nationwide there's a couple studies that were published just about the effects of the hurricane, and hand over fist we saw almost every home, there was no damage from the hurricanes. There was no, faulty installation or anything like that. I mean, again, as long as you're working with a licensed and certified solar contractor, you won't have to worry about it.
I like your style, Morgan. So that's exactly what I tell them too, is that if your panel's gone, it's because your roof's not there, and if your roof's not there, you got bigger problems. And then unfortunately, well, we've also learned from Andrew and a number of other storms, so we have a lot more hurricane straps than we used to, which is what holds all those trusses in your roof down, so it doesn't blow away. Mr. Coward, do you want to take us home?
I just wanted to make a quick comment regarding some of the other types of improvements, which I think are really important. Solar typically is the premium investment. If you have an older house with older windows and older AC, the solution is not to run in and get solar. The first thing you should do is really focus, as the mayor noted, on the most cost-effective first steps, which is the weatherization, high-efficiency air conditioner. We've done over $6.3 million in lending, and a lot of what we're doing is a basic weatherization package with an AC system that's 16 SEER or higher. That really basic package, which is generally around $6,000, $8,000, is cutting people's energy bills on average by 23%. Their energy use. So if you're able to make your home efficient and utilize a new state-of-the-art high-efficiency AC, you're already going to be cutting your total energy load by almost 25%. If you can then incorporate a solar water heater, and that's typically recommended if you have multiple people in the family using a lot of hot water, very cost-effective solar technology, that's going to knock off another probably 15 or 20% in terms of your use. So we really try and help guide a homeowner to reduce their energy use and then size a solar system that meets that reduced demand. Because it certainly doesn't make sense to put an expensive solar system on your home to power an old, outdated AC that's going to run cold air into a house and then sneak out the jalousie windows, and now you're basically air conditioning the neighborhood. So we really do try and provide guidance to the homeowner about how to go through these step processes. But today, we're focused on solar, and we're extremely proud to be bringing the lowest cost solar panels ever offered in this community, combined with 3 different financing programs to help you make the investment, capture the tax credit, capture the energy savings, and save literally thousands of dollars on your energy bill while supporting a local contractor. So we thank you for your time, and we especially want to thank Mayor Oravec for his leadership and the entire City Council for having us today. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much, Doug, for everything that you and the team does in our community. How long does this SunSaver program last?
February 16th.
February 16th. Today is?
29th.
Yes, we got to make it happen here, or we got to beg for an extension. We got to make it happen and then ask for an extension. So, how can they get a hold of you? What's the website and the phone number?
The phone number is 772-468-1818, and our website is solarenergyloanfund.org.
All right, Port St. Lucie. So, hope you enjoyed this educational seminar, really, on solar power across the nation and right here in the Sunshine State and your beautiful Port St. Lucie. Please contact SELF, see if it's right for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry you guys had a non-speaking role. Good thing you don't wear red shirts, because Star Trek.